was about 6 years old or so. I was playing in a Little League baseball game, and I was playing shortstop. No jokes. Anyway, at that age, you're not always paying attention like you ought to. And so I was standing there in the field, and I got distracted, and I started looking around, and all of a sudden I heard whack. And so the ball was hit, and by the time I turned around, it was too late, for the ball struck me right in the chest, knocked the wind out. And even at that age, you can feel the embarrassment. I should have been watchful. I should have been alert. But so the next game, I decided, of course, this time I will make sure that I concentrate and I will be more alert. And so there I am playing shortstop again, and the ball is hit. And I'm watching it perfectly. It's a little high pop, and it's starting to go over my head. So I turn around, and I track it down, and I run right under it, and I'm just about to catch it, but then smack. I didn't see that the left fielder was coming to catch the ball too, and his head bashed into my mouth, knocking out 2 of my teeth. So much for being watchful and alert. I guess you have to be more watchful and alert to a lot of things, not just one thing. But that certainly is the message in regard to today's gospel and the season of Advent also, as our Lord urges us, be watchful, be alert. Be watchful and alert to what? Well, of course, the coming of Christ. But did you know that there is not just 1 or 2, but actually 3 comings of Christ that we look at and we're supposed to be alert and watchful to in the season of Advent? In fact, the word Advent actually means coming. And so we need to be watchful, need to be alert to not 1, 2, but 3 comings of Christ. And so the first coming of Christ is the fact that Christ has already come. That is the first one. But that coming of Christ a long time ago should have a profound impact on our lives, on each and every one of us. That is, if Christ did not come, would our lives be the same? Would our lives be different? If our lives would be exactly the same now if Christ did not come, then there's probably some things that we need to work on. That is, the point is that even though Christ first came a long time ago on our earth, he came in a way that was personal to each and every one of us. And so we should each have a personal response to that very first coming of Christ, because that coming was for you. 2, the second coming of Christ that we are alert or should be watchful for is the fact that Christ comes in the here and now. Christ is ever present in our lives and in our world. But one of the problems of this time of year in the season of Advent is this becomes a very hectic, a very crazy time for us all. That is, we get so busy at work, busy with our daily routines, our things to do list. This is a crazy and hectic time, and so because of that, we lose sight of being a watchful and alert to Christ in the here and now. Sometimes so much so that even if Christ were to walk right by us, we might not take any notice of him. But if we are watchful, if we do what the season of Advent calls us to do, that is to pause, to slow down, to pray. If we do that, we will see Christ's presence all around us. We will see Christ's presence in our spouse, in our children. We'll see his presence in friends and neighbors and even strangers. We will see his presence in the beauty of nature. We will see his presence, or he will make his presence known in our prayer, in our quiet times. We will sense and feel his true presence in the Eucharist and in confession also. But if we are watchful and alert to Christ's presence in the here and now, we will indeed know his presence everywhere and at all times. And the third coming of Christ is the fact that Christ promised to come again. And so we need to be watchful and alert to that second coming also. Christ's promise that he will come again. And we don't know when exactly that is, but it can be at any time for any one of us. And so we need to be prepared. In fact, what if Christ was to come this very Christmas? Would we be prepared? Would we be ready for that coming? And so now is the time to be prepared, for we do not know when he will come. The point is we run, it could be a very dangerous thing to not really focus on Christ, to not be alert and watchful for his coming. And we heard this truth in our first reading from the prophet Isaiah. For the people weren't focused on God and so lost their way. In fact, the reading told us that left to their own alert, for we can cause great harm to ourselves and to others. So too, if we aren't watchful, if we aren't alert, it is then that we can cause great spiritual harm to ourselves and to even others also. And so that is why it is important to always go out through our lives, not just in the season of Advent, but to be watchful, to be alert to Christ always. And so our Lord, as he says to us in our gospel, he says to each and every one of us in a personal way, watch, be alert, be watchful. And if we are alert, if we are watchful, we will know God's presence in our past, in our present, and in our future also. And we will not only have and know his peace and joy this coming December 25th, but we'll know his peace and joy every day of our lives also.